This video is brought to you by Miniature Market. Thousands of board games, discounted prices, miniaturemarket.com.
Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. It's time to go to Egypt. We're going to be going down in the tombs there and looking at sarcophaguses and dealing with Cleopatra and Tutankhamun and things like that. Because today we're going to go to Exit the Game Pharaoh's Tomb. This is a new series of escape room style games. This is the version from Kosmos for 1 to 6 players. It takes about 1 to 2 hours, ages 12 and up. So let me show you how it's played a little bit. I'm not going to do any spoilers. I'm just going to kind of show you how the system works so you have an idea of what comes in the box and how it works, and then I'll give you my final thoughts. Now here are the main components in the game. There's a book that I'm not going to open, but it has information that you'll need when trying to solve some of these puzzles. There are riddle cards labeled A and through a bunch of different letters. There's about 22 of them in this, and some of those are all puzzles or pieces of a larger puzzle. And then here are answer cards between 1 and 30. So you'll be going through this book, reading stories, sometimes flipping riddle cards, and then maybe flipping more riddle cards. And then when you think you know the answer, you'll be flipping this up, depending on the number here. So if you're looking for the starburst and you think the solution is this, then you're going to open up answer card number 5 and see if you're right or not. Now I'm not going to spoil anything, but I'm going to show you the different things that might happen just to show you what the engine of this game is. So this wheel you're spinning, and as you're changing things, things will change as to what answer card you're bringing up, and then you'll find out if you're right or not. But I won't be able to I'm not going to show you exactly which cards these are, but I'm going to just show you what they do. Now I've got these at an angle for a reason. I don't want you to see what number cards these are. You might flip over a card and it might just say, nah, you're wrong, put it back in the deck. You might get a card that says, well, you might be on the right track. And then depending on the puzzle that you're trying to solve, you'll be seeing something that has to do with that puzzle. And then you'll know which of the cards then to flip. And then it might be wrong, might be another one of these, might be, you might be right. It might tell you to, maybe get some more real cards or whatever. So this is sort of the main mechanisms of the game. But then for each of the puzzle types, now remember, all these different shapes are the ones that you're finding on the wheel, so you're knowing which puzzle you're trying to put the right code or colors in for. And for each of these, there's 3 different cards. There's a first clue, which basically just tells you if you want to get this clue, you can get it, but you're going to subtract some points at the end of the game. This definitely usually tells you which cards of the riddle cards do you actually need? How much information do you even need to start solving this puzzle? Second one is, okay, you've got all the information you need, let's help you a little bit further. And if you're totally stuck, it can give you a solution if you're really stuck there. Now you don't want to use these at all if you can, because it does change your score at the end of the game. Let me show you how that works. Now, depending on the amount of cards you've used for help and how much time you took, whether it's 60 or 90 or 2 hours, and depending on how many help cards you took, you'll get a certain amount of stars between 1 and 10 to see how good you did. All right, there is the Pharaoh's Tomb. Now, just recently before this, I had reviewed the abandoned cabin version of this. And so I'm just going to briefly go over the system, because if you want to learn a little bit more about that, you can watch that video here. I'll put the description of that video in this note so you can get a little bit deeper. But the system itself, very simple. You just have cards and that wheel. I really like the way the wheel works. I like the way that the cards work. It just makes sense the way that the system works. You're going through, it's either right or wrong, and then you have to find something else to see if you're really right. I like that. I like that you're working on multiple puzzles at the same time. I like that it's linear, so you're trying to figure out, hey, do we have enough information about this puzzle? Nah, let's come back to it later. Maybe later on you'll get some more clues. So I like that about this. I also like the price. It's only $14.95 MSRP, and I think there's a lot of game in the box for that price, because it's probably gonna be about 10 bucks at Miniature Market. And so that's a really good value here. Now, this version itself, again, if you want to learn a little bit more about the system, go to my abandoned cabin review. This specific version of this Pharaoh's Tomb, this was my favorite theme out of all the 3 ones, just by looking at it, because I love the Egyptian theme. So I was really looking forward to this. So I got to tell you, this one was very difficult. Like, the abandoned cabin one, as I mentioned, was, I thought, the perfect level of difficulty. It felt hard, but not too hard. This one, wow, we did terrible on this one. And so this one's really, really hard. So if it's your first time doing this series of games, I would recommend playing the abandoned cabin first, and then maybe try to tackle this one. Now, it could have been because it was late. It could have been we were just tired, but man, some of these puzzles were just really hard. And even sometimes after getting the clues for some of these, man, it's like we still couldn't, we knew we were on the right track, but we couldn't quite get it. Some of it, I'm going to attribute some of this to being, well, I felt like we were thrown off a little bit by some of the clues and what was written on some of the cards, and like, well, but other part of it was could have been we just didn't get it. There were some of them that we didn't get that later on we went, you know what, we really should have gotten that one. For some reason, we just didn't get it. And there were plenty that we did get, and I'd say about 3/4 of the way through, once we got to there, we were able to get through the rest of them, in normal fashion, I'd say. But man, even starting with the first clue, I mean, we spent 25 minutes on the first clue because we just could not get it. We understood what was going on, we got the twist of it, but for some reason we just couldn't finish it off. So this one, look, the system's great. The game has, again, much like the Abandoned Cabin, has 2 times in this one where you're gonna go, wow, that is cool. How did they, what they do with just the cards in the box in this thing is just awesome. It's like really cool. So there are 2 times that you're gonna be like, wow, that was really crazy. But this one I'd say is more swingy. It had more highs but more lows than the other one. So, and it was very difficult. But I wouldn't not recommend it but I would try the Abandoned Cabin first. If you go through that one okay, and you want to try one that's really hard, I'd say try this Pharaoh's Tomb. But the system's awesome. The game was fun. I really enjoyed it. And again, this is a legacy style game. You are going to be doing things to the game that make sure that you won't ever be able to play it or pass it on, something like that. So be known about that as well. Some people might not like that. I understand why they're doing it. It allows them to sell more of these. And at this price point, that's the right thing to do, I think, because it does make the game feel a little bit cooler as you're going through there. So that is it for Pharaoh's Tomb. Very difficult, sometimes a little bit distracting. Sometimes I felt like sometimes even the clues didn't give us enough information. We got stuck a few times, and it was quite frustrating sometimes. But the highs of this game were like, whoa! So take that with a grain of salt. You guys, and again, it's very personal. Your brain might work with these puzzles and go, Pharaoh's Tomb was easier than Abandoned Cabin. What are you talking about, Dan? So I'm not saying stay away from this. I'm just saying maybe try the Abandoned Cabin first and then try Pharaoh's Tomb because it was a lot harder. And that's it for Pharaoh's Tomb.
This video was sponsored by Miniature Market's Review Corner. The Review Corner features podcasts, video, and written game reviews by gamers for gamers. Miniature Market, the online gaming superstore. Thousands of board games, discounted prices. Check them out at miniaturemarket.com.